Good morning. Parliament is resumed. I'll ask the member for Cayman Brac West and Little Cayman to grace us with prayers.
Good morning. Let us pray. Almighty Father, from whom all wisdom and power are derived, we beseech Thee so to direct and prosper the deliberation of the Parliament now established, that all things may be ordered upon the best and surest foundations of the glory of Thy name, and for the safety, honor, and welfare of the people of these islands. Bless our sovereign King, Charles III, William, Prince of Wales, and all the royal family. Give grace to all who exercise authority in our Commonwealth, that peace and happiness, truth and justice, religion and piety may be established among us. Especially we pray for the governor of our islands, the premier, the speaker of the Parliament, the leader of the opposition, ministers of cabinet, ex officio members, members of the Parliament, the Chief Justice, and members of the judiciary, that we may be enabled faithfully to perform the responsible duties of our high office. All this we ask for Thy great name's sake. Let us say the Lord's Prayer together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be Thy name. Thy kingdom come, Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For Thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. The Lord bless us and keep us. The Lord make His face shine upon us and be gracious unto us. The Lord lift up the light of His countenance upon us and give us peace now and always. Amen.
Please be seated.
Administration of oaths or affirmations?
None.
Reading by the Honorable Speaker of messages and announcements?
None.
Presentation of petitions?
None.
Presentation of papers and of reports? CIA Cayman Islands Airport Authority 2019 Annual Report to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Tourism and Ports.
I recognize the Honourable Minister of Tourism and Ports.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to lay before this Honourable House the Cayman Islands Airports Authority 2019 Annual Report.
So ordered. Does the Honourable Minister wish to speak thereto?
No, Mr. Speaker.
Very well.
Cayman Turtle Conservation and Education Centre Limited Annual Report for the year ending 31st of December 2020. Cayman Turtle Conservation and Education Centre Limited Annual Report for the year ending 31st of December 2021 to be laid on the table by the Minister of Tourism and Ports.
Recognize the Honourable Minister of Tourism and Ports.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to lay before this Honourable House the Cayman Turtle Conservation and Education Centre Limited Annual Report for the year ended 31st of December 2020 and 31st of December 2021.
So ordered. Does the Honourable Minister wish to speak to the two reports?
No, Mr. Speaker, just to advise that as per the previous report, these two reports were before the time of me becoming minister, only for the latter of 2021 and the last 6 months of December of 2021.
Very well.
Ministry of Tourism and Ports, Cayman Islands Government Annual Report for the year ending the 31st of December 2023. To be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Tourism and Ports.
Recognize the Honourable Minister for Tourism and Ports.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to lay before this Honorable House the Ministry of Tourism and Ports, the annual report for the year ended the 31st of December 2023.
So ordered. Does the Honourable Minister wish to speak thereto?
No, Mr. Speaker, just shortly to highlight the fact that in this report, it does have some elements of public transport, upon which this Honourable House may recall that I was the Minister for the first year and a half of this administration for transportation before it was passed on to the now Honourable Minister Ebanks. So members should note that, but also to say thank you on behalf of my ministry and team for their hard work over the last 3 years.
Very well.
Health Insurance Commission Annual Report 2022 in review, 1st of January to the 31st of December 2022. Issue number 16, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Health and Wellness.
I recognize the Honourable Minister for Health and Wellness.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to lay on the table of this most honourable House the Health Insurance Commission Annual Report 2022 in review of the 1st of January 31st, 2022, issued number 16.
So ordered. Does the Honourable Minister wish to speak thereto?
Briefly. Mr. Speaker, in accordance with Section 11(4) of the Health Insurance Commission Act 2016, I am pleased to present to this Honourable House the annual report for the Health Insurance Commission and audited financial statement of the Segregated Insurance Fund for the 12-month period ending the 31st of December 2022. The Cayman Islands Health Insurance Commission is an oversight body given the authority under the Health Insurance Commission Act 2016 revision to monitor and regulate the nation's health insurance industry. The functions of the Commission includes the assessment and monitoring of premium rates, monitoring the conduct of approved insurers, resolving complaints and advising the Minister on matters relating to health insurance, including advice on amendments to the Health Insurance Act and regulations. Mr. Speaker, during 2022, there were 6 external outputs that were successfully delivered on behalf of the Health Insurance Commission. They are as follows: the Health Insurance Complaint Regulations, administration of the Segregated Insurance Fund and the number of insured persons, public education campaign focused on health insurance, enforcement of health insurance legislation, provision of the policy advice and reports to the Health Insurance Commission and the Ministry of Health and Wellness, and on-site inspections. Accordingly, Mr. Speaker, in 2022, the Health Insurance Commission handled 4,581 inquiries, which included policy terminations, high-risk applications, individual reports, complaints and applications related to the Premium Payment Assistance Program. Of that number, approximately 58%, meaning 2,672 inquiries, were either resolved or closed. Since 2006, the Health Insurance Commission has been responsible for administering the collection and contributions from the approved insurers for the Segregated Insurance Fund. That has a primary function defraying the cost incurred for providing medical care to indigent persons. The monthly contributions of each policyholder, that being of $10 from an individual with no dependents and $20 from those with dependents, are collected as coercive revenue and deposited into the Ministry of Health and Wellness's Executive Revenue Bank account. Mr. Speaker, in 2022, drafted financial statements as of the 31st of December 2022 were submitted on April the 11th, 2023 to the Office of the Auditor General in accordance with Section 61A of the Public Management and Finance Act 2020 revision and achieved an unqualified audit for the submission. The financial statements present fairly in all material aspects and it was noted that the total revenue collected by the segregated insurance funds from approval providers during the year 2022 was $6,143,636 compared to $5,617,740 for the period ending the 31st of December 2021. Expenses representing audit fees for 2022 total $8,000. Therefore, the surplus for the 12-month period ending the 31st of December 2022 was $6,135,636. Mr. Speaker, it is important to mention that the net assets of the funds is always zero, as all of the funds collected, less the operating expenses, are deposited with the Ministry of Health and Wellness Executive Revenue account. As a result, no funds are remaining for actual investments. Regarding the number of insured persons, Mr. Speaker, the Health Insurance Commission reported a significant increase throughout the year, starting at 69,565 persons back in January of 22 and ending at 74,586 persons in December 2022, based on the information submitted by the 8 approved health insurance providers. As part of our commitment to provide high-quality health care services, Mr. Speaker, to all of our people, we are also closely monitoring the medical indigent persons through the National Health Insurance Systems database, which is maintained and monitored by the Health Insurance Commission, based on the information provided by the Department of Children and Family Services. As of 31st of December 2022, there were 1,959 medical indigent persons, consisting of 795 persons considered as temporarily needing assistance, and the remaining 1,164 persons being classified as permanently or indefinitely needing assistance. As of March 2024, the last report showed a total of 2,133 medical indigent persons. Along with continuing to educate the public and to provide essential information regarding the health insurance and its governing legislation through the DHRS websites, newspaper articles, and radio announcements, in 2022, the Health Insurance Commission was also still promoting the Premium Payment Assistance Program, which concluded on June 30th, 2022. Mr. Speaker, you will remember that on one of the many measures taken by the Ministry of Health and Wellness in our efforts to assist those affected by the economic impact of COVID-19 was to assist displaced tourism and hospitality industry workers via the coverage of their health insurance premiums through the Premium Assistance Program. Mr. Speaker, from February 2022 until June 2022, when the program concluded, 4,089 persons benefited from that at a cost of $427,123.31, an investment, Mr. Speaker, in the physical and mental health of our people during a very trying time for all. To ensure that all medical insurance companies are meeting the prescribed conditions, the Health Insurance Commission is issuing approved insurer certifications each year based on complete applications. In 2022, the applications submitted, 3 received conditional letters and subsequently compiled with conditions. By the end of 2022, all 8 applications were approved for the year 2023. Mr. Speaker, the Health Insurance Commission receives professional advice on the procedure, methodology, and the best practice that could be applied to enhance the monitoring of the 8 approved insurance financial performance. Therefore, one of the requirements of health insurance insurers to obtain the renewal of their approved insurer certificate was to complete the revised financial performance report template. The aggregate health insurance industry figures for the reporting period 2021 and 22 showed significant difference in the net profit and loss from less than $1 million in 2021 to more than $16 million in 2022. In an effort to ensure that all health insurance contracts complied with the benefits required under the Standard Health Insurance Contract, the Health Insurance Commission inspectors carried out on-site inspections. The Health Insurance Commission is also responsible for regulating and monitoring the standard premium rate for the Standard Health Insurance Contract, SHIC. In this regard, during 2022, the Health Insurance Commission did not receive any applications from the approved insurers to increase the premium rates. As a government entity, the Health Insurance Commission also abides by the Freedom of Information Act 2021 revision, having the obligation to process and release information requests. During 2022, the Health Insurance Commission received 4 such requests, and all were processed, closed, and updated in the JADE system. In closing, Mr. Speaker, I would like to recognize the Health Insurance Commission's achievements in 2022 and publicly thank the Health Insurance Commission and the Department of Health and Regulatory Services staff for their hard work and commitment. I would also like to invite the members of this Honourable House to review the Health Insurance 2022 report in more detail. As the Chairman of the Health Insurance Commission and the Director of the Department of Health and Regulatory Services rightly note in their opening message, and I quote, "Patients deserve a high level of quality healthcare service, and it requires all stakeholders in the healthcare and health insurance sectors to work together." Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I would like to acknowledge the contribution of the Health Insurance Commission in this regard, and to assure this Honourable House that the ministries not only share this sentiment, but also the efforts in achieving this greater goal. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
National Drug Council, Cayman Islands, celebrating 25 years, 2023 annual report, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Health and Wellness.
I recognize the Honourable Minister of Health and Wellness.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to lay on the table before this Honourable House National Drug Council, Cayman Islands, celebrating 25 years, 2023 annual report.
So ordered. Does the Honourable Minister wish to speak thereto?
Very briefly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In accordance with Section 24(3) of the National Drug Council Act 2010 revision and Section 52(8) of the Public Management and Finance Act 2020 revision, I wish to lay on the table before this Honourable Parliament that annual report covering the period of 1st of January 2023 until the 31st of December 2023. The annual report was signed off by the Office of the Auditor General on April 29, 2024, and showcases the meaningful work carried out by the National Drug Council. The National Drug Council received a clean opinion on its financials from the Office of the Auditor General. For those that do not know, the National Drug Council is a statutory body that was established to coordinate anti-drug measures. Its functions are diverse and include policy surveillance, education, monitoring, and evaluation. The most significant and most recent year of 2023 was a very special year for NDC because as of January 27, 2023, it marked the Council's 25th anniversary, Mr. Speaker. During this milestone year, the National Drug Council achieved many successes, such as delivered over 585 presentations to audiences across our islands, successfully engaged with 1,362 students across 17 schools through virtual activities for the Healthy Body, Healthy Minds campaign. This campaign promotes holistic well-being among the youth by addressing the interconnected facets of physical, intellectual, nutritional, social, and mental health, and is in its third consecutive year. They hosted 1,750 high school students across 13 schools in virtual activities for the 13th annual National Drug and Alcohol Facts Month. The sessions were developed and challenged misconceptions or misconcepts surrounding substance use and equipped young people with the knowledge and tools to make informed decisions. Expanded the Youth to Youth program by adding a new chapter at a private school. This was made possible by successfully implementing the Youth to Youth Adult Leader Training module. They certified over 100 individuals in the alcohol industry through the TIPS off-premises and on-site training sessions. Mr. Speaker, the Council's achievements are even more admirable considering their limited resources. In 2023, the National Drug Council operated with 7 employees and the board of 13 cabinet-appointed members. Mr. Speaker, the National Drug Council's success extends into their financial management. The Council was forecasted to have a $2,000 deficit in 2023. Thanks to higher than expected donation and a reduction in operating costs, the Council was able to end the year with a surplus of $12,000. Notwithstanding the stellar work that is produced by the Council, Mr. Speaker, there are challenges. Funds can only go so far, and there's always more work that can be done to benefit our community. Mr. Speaker, I would like to take this opportunity to express appreciation to the Chair of the Council, the board management volunteers, and the NDC's acting director, Ms. Brenda Watson, for producing these reports. In closing, Mr. Speaker, the Council has satisfied its mandate and obligations as stipulated in the purchase and ownership agreements executed under my ministry during this financial period. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Cayman Islands Central Planning Authority and Development Control Board 2022 Annual Report to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Planning, Agriculture, Housing, Infrastructure, Transport and Development.
Honourable Minister, I believe you intend to defer the laying of that report. If so, please move the motion.
Mr. Speaker, that is correct. We would like to defer that report until another sitting.
Move it as a motion.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to move a motion for the Cayman Islands Central Planning Authority Development Control Board 2022 annual report to be laid at another sitting. To be deferred at another sitting, sorry.
The motion is that the report entitled the Cayman Islands Central Planning Authority and Development Control Board 2022 Annual Report be deferred to a subsequent sitting of this House. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. The Cayman Islands Central Planning Authority and Development Control Board 2022 Annual Report is deferred to another sitting of this House.
Ministry of Border Control and Labour, Cayman Islands Government, Annual Report 2023 to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Border Control, Labour and Culture.
I recognize the Honourable Minister of Border Control, Labour and Culture.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the annual report, Minister of Border Control, Labour for the financial period ending 31st of December 2023.
So ordered. Does the Honourable Minister wish to speak thereto?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Please proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I continue to be impressed with the efficiency and professionalism displayed by the ministry. The Auditor General issued another unqualified or clean audit opinion on the financial statements for the ministry for the period, a testament to the hard work of the ministry and its departments. The annual reports, Mr. Speaker, contains a wealth of information on activities and achievements of the ministry for 2023 and some forward-looking goals and objectives for 2024. Mr. Speaker, in 2024, the ministry further expanded with the acquisition of the Minister of Culture and the Cayman Islands Postal Service, broadening the ministry's scope of responsibilities and underscoring our commitment to serving our citizens comprehensively. The annual revenue for 2023 fiscal year stood at $243 million across the ministry. In regards to the ministry's labor force, there were a total of 434 employees, with 268 working for Customs and Border Control Services, CBC, 23 working for the Department of Labor and Pension, 130 working at the Workforce Opportunities and Residency Cayman, and 23 in the core ministry itself. On the 1st of February 2024, CBC celebrated its 5th anniversary. During the 2023 fiscal year, the dedicated and hard-working staff of CBC processed over 1.3 million persons arriving via air and 2.5 million cruise passengers and 261,300 import declarations in 2023. A continued focus on bolstering national security while maintaining the integrity of our air and seaports allowed for the interception of illicit drugs, firearms, and ammunition, resulting in almost 100 arrests and the processing of 82 migrants. Mr. Speaker, work embraced the theme of improving quality of service through enhanced performance. With this goal in mind, work offered a total of 55 staff training initiatives in support of professional development, completed recruitment of 3 staff into new roles, as well as promoted 6 staff in key organizational positions, inclusive of a permanent senior leadership team, which comprises the director and 2 new deputy directors having responsibility for areas, namely business operations and compliance. Further improvements to work's quality of service and branding was evidenced with the introduction of their new website, www.work.ky. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, with continued focus on compliance and enforcement, the Work Investigative Compliance Team conducted 537 investigations, resulting in $455,255 in fines, a 16% increase compared to the previous year. Work law enforcement officers participated in 17 joint operations with other law enforcement agencies, highlighting their commitment to social justice and fair opportunities for Caymanians. Mr. Speaker, the Department of Labor and Pensions focus has been given to streamlining the adjudication process with the appointments of new Labor Tribunal and Labor Appeals Tribunal board members. Legislative changes were also completed to the National Pensions Act with the aim of addressing the rising cost of living and improving the overall quality of life for Caymanians. Noting the global increase in inflation and interest rates, these legislative changes allow Caymanians to utilize their pensions for property and related purposes. Lastly, bearing the aforementioned economic circumstances in mind, effective the 1st of July 2023, after consultation with the National Pensions Board, the Director of DLP took the decision to increase the retirement benefit payouts, and DLP announced the annual disbursements of funds under a retirement savings arrangement had risen from $12,900 to $14,125 per annum, which was a 9.5% increase. Mr. Speaker, I am thankful to all the staff within the ministry and the Department of CBC, Work, and DLP for their unwavering dedication and commitment to the service of the Cayman Islands. Their hard work has contributed to bolstering national security, supporting economic resilience, and contributing to fiscal prosperity. Mr. Speaker, I will now present forward-looking aspects of our annual report and the ministry's current work, highlighting some of the crucial amendments and initiatives that will shape our immigration, border control, and labor policies for the betterment of our beloved Cayman Islands. Regarding the amendments to the Immigration Transition Act, we are at the tail end of drafting significant amendments to the Immigration Transition Act to address the overwhelming concerns that too many individuals qualify to become Caymanian too quickly. Key provisions include qualification period for naturalization. We are extending the period that an individual must be married to a Caymanian before they can qualify for a naturalization. And we are also working to increase the period in which persons must remain married before they can become Caymanian. These changes will help to ensure that not only those with genuine long-term commitments can attain this status. Post-marriage PR limitations, we are introducing provisions to limit criteria under which individuals can continue to possess permanent residency if their marriage to a Caymanian or a PR holder ends. Civil servant term limits, we are working to include provisions from term limits for those employed by the government under the term civil servant, bringing parity between the civil service and the private sector as it relates to rollover. This portion of the work has been paused to allow the Honorable Deputy Governor to study the impact of term limits on the civil service and propose recommendations on mitigations. Information sharing and disclosures. We allow disclosures and information shared of reports between key government departments and the Work Department to ensure comprehensive and robust information. This will ensure that all relevant considerations, including administrative fines, arrests, and convictions, are known to the decision makers when reviewing applications. Mr. Speaker, we aim to remove those individuals on work permits who are breaking our laws and committing increasingly serious offenses. The Permanent Residency Points Review Committee is finalizing work on the PR Points Committee to ensure that fewer people qualify for PR and that those who do are making positive, lasting contributions to the Cayman Islands. Turning my attention to labor, I will soon seek support from my caucus and cabinet colleagues to draft amendments to the Labor Act. The amendments will improve maternity and paternity leave, enhancing leave provisions to support families. We'll also empower the Department of Labor and Pensions and grant additional powers to staff to administer fines and prosecute offenders effectively. Let's look at the minimum wage recommendation. Mr. Speaker, the Minimum Wage Review Committee produced a solid report, and since the report was issued for public review and consultation, my colleagues and I have received vigorous representation of concerns from Caymanian employers and small business about the impact of minimum wage increases amidst high inflation and already high cost of living, the cost of doing business in the Cayman Islands. In response, my cabinet colleagues are advocating for sectorized recommendations for minimum wage increases to balance economic sustainability with fair wages, and we should hear more about that later. Mr. Speaker, we will continue to modernize customs and border control legislation. This includes provisions for increased and additional administrative fines, ensuring our brave CBC officers are well equipped and empowered to protect our borders, collect tariff revenue, and deliver improved customer service. Finally, Mr. Speaker, we will announce our plans for the re-energized and improved Pirates Week Festival in the coming weeks. We're also excited about opening nominations for our beloved National Heroes Day. I'm always elated to see the pride in all the things Caymanian comes out during the National Heroes Day Awards ceremony and celebrations. Mr. Speaker, the 2025 Heroes Day celebrations theme will be celebrating icons of business and entrepreneurship, a tribute to Caymanian business and ingenuity, creativity, successes, hard work, innovation, and leadership. And we have many to celebrate there. Mr. Speaker, these forward-looking measures reflect our commitment to safeguarding the interests of Caymanians while fostering a fair, secure, and prosperous Cayman Islands. Thank you and this esteemed Parliament for your support as we progress with these vital initiatives. I am eager to continue to work with the team to build on the achievements of 2023. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Madam Clerk.
Ministry of Youth, Sports, Culture and Heritage, Cayman Islands Government, Annual Report 2023, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Youth, Sports and Heritage.
I recognize the Honourable Minister of Youth, Sports and Heritage.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to lay on the table of this Parliament the annual report for the Ministry of Youth, Sports, Culture and Heritage for 2023.
So ordered. Does the Honourable Minister wish to speak thereto?
Just briefly, sir. Mr. Speaker, in accordance with Section 52(8) of the Public Management and Finance Act 2020 revision, it is my honor to present to this esteemed Honourable House the annual report and audited financial statements of the Ministry of Youth, Sport, Culture, Heritage for the fiscal year ending on December 31st, 2023. The Ministry of Youth, Sports, Culture and Heritage, now known as the Ministry for Youth, Sports and Heritage, is responsible for providing strategic and policy direction, advice, funding, and governance support to its departments, units, and statutory authorities. The following departments, units, and statutory authorities under the Ministry are Youth Services Unit, the Department of Sports, the National Gallery of the Cayman Islands, and the Cayman Islands Museum. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry has 4 priorities that are the foundation of its work and the driving forces behind its initiatives. These are talent identification and development, enhancing and empowering our youth, awareness and preservation of culture and heritage, and 4, promoting an active and healthy lifestyle for all. I'm also pleased to report, Mr. Speaker, that the Ministry received an unqualified opinion from the Auditor General on its financial statements for the year ended 31st of December 2023. I wish to extend my deepest appreciation to the Ministry, the Chief Officers, Deputies, Heads of Departments, the entire team of the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Heritage, and also to the past Minister, now Parliamentary Secretary to the Ministry, Mr. Bernie Bush, for the work that they've done, their tireless dedication and unwavering commitment across a wide range of subject areas which have yielded impressive results. I encourage all members of the House and the listening public to delve into the report and discover the Ministry's impactful work in detail. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions to honorable ministers and members of the cabinet?
Madam Clerk, members, I wish to say something about this troubling matter. This meeting of the House was originally called for the 5th of July. Parliamentary questions were therefore required to be submitted 10 days in advance of that. Because of the hurricane, this meeting had to be postponed until to start yesterday, the 22nd of July. So that means that ministers and the ministries and departments have had 28 days to produce answers to the 19 parliamentary questions which were submitted. Yesterday we had 2 answers and no other answers have been submitted. This Parliament meets very infrequently. It is absolutely abhorrent to democracy for ministers not to be in a position to answer questions asked of them. It is a critically important part of the whole parliamentary scrutiny. So, I am urging ministers, this meeting is unlikely to last beyond this week. I'm urging ministers to do whatever they can to ensure that answers are submitted so that the Parliament can carry out its critically important role as scrutineers of the executive. Madam Clerk.
Statements by honorable ministers and members of the cabinet.
I have received notice of and have approved the delivery of 2 statements by the honorable minister for, he's got so many subjects, planning, agriculture, housing, infrastructure, transport, and development.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. Mr. Speaker, honorable members of Parliament, this is a statement on the supplementary funding for the National Community Enhancement Project, NICE 2024. On the 21st of March 2024, under Section 11.5 of the Public Management Finance Act 2020 revision, Cabinet approved $450,000 in the supplementary funding for the National Community Enhancement Project, NICE 2024. That was implemented between April the 8th and the 19th of 2024. This saw an increase to the financial year of 24 appropriation PH4, management of public recreations and facilities and cemeteries to the Ministry of Planning, Agriculture, Housing, Infrastructure, Transport and Development in the amount of $450,000. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, statement on supplementary funding for Hurricane Beryl preparation and recovery efforts. Mr. Speaker, honorable members of Parliament, on the 8th of July 2024, under Section 11.5 of the Public Management Finance Act 2020 revision, Cabinet approved $250,000 in supplementary funding for Hurricane Beryl preparation and recovery efforts. This will see an increase in the transfer payment of 76 assistance for infrastructure development by $250,000 for 2024 financial year. Thank you.
Madam Clerk.
Personal explanations.
None.
Obituary and other ceremonial speeches.
Honorable members, on Sunday, the 2nd of June, 2024, the late Mr. Donovan Ebanks, MBE, JP, former Deputy Governor of these islands, was called to higher service at the age of 72. As Deputy Governor, he was an ex officio member of this Parliament. Mr. Ebanks left deep footprints on the sands of time in these islands, He was an exemplary civil servant who served his beloved country for more than 37 years, beginning in 1975 as an engineer at Public Works, and rising through the ranks to become Deputy Chief Secretary in 1994, Chief Secretary in 2009, and following the enactment of the 2009 Constitution in November 2009, the first Deputy Governor and head of the Civil Service. Over the years, Donny, as most of us called him, played pivotal roles in the development of many key policies and government agencies, and in the improvement of governance generally. His work over the decades in the establishment of the National Hurricane Committee and its successor, Hazard Management Cayman Islands, is but just one of countless examples of his vision and leadership acumen. This Parliament accorded him the honor of a lying in state on June 21st, as a way of both recognizing his lifetime of public service and offering our respect for his steadfast leadership. Today, as Speaker, I wish to formally record in the Hansard of this House our deep regret and sorrow on his passing. On behalf of this Parliament, I extend and renew condolences to his children, Josh and Maggie, who are here with us this morning, all members of his family, and to his many friends and former colleagues across the public service. May his soul rest in peace. Does any other member wish to offer a tribute or condolences? The Honorable Acting Deputy Governor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I stand to offer a tribute to the Cayman Islands' last Chief Secretary and its first Deputy Governor and head of the Civil Service, Mr. Donovan Ebanks. In his lifetime, Mr. Ebanks achieved great heights, but of all his professional accolades, he held dearest to the title of servant leader. Mr. Ebanks has left a large and enduring legacy that will continue to make lives better for the people of these islands for many generations to come. As a fully qualified engineer, Mr. Ebanks began his career in the Public Works Department. He held a deep respect for the men and women within the PWD whose toils heralded the start of Cayman's modern roadways and government buildings. He was a strong advocate for the education and advancement of young Caymanians, and many saw their careers, whether in the public or private sector, commence with a stint at PWD under Mr. Ebanks' stewardship as he rose through the ranks to become the head of department. His upward trajectory continued with his promotions to Deputy Chief Secretary and later Chief Secretary in 2009, and as you noted, Mr. Speaker, ultimately becoming the country's first Deputy Governor following constitutional modernization. During his career, he delivered numerous transformational projects which continue to pay dividends to this day. Gleaned from his years of experience, including serving as the chair of the then National Hurricane Committee, and seeing the Cayman Islands people safely through Hurricane Ivan's brutal assault on Grand Cayman in 2004, Mr. Ebanks was determined to mature the institutions that support our disaster preparedness and national resilience. He therefore established Hazard Management Cayman Islands, establishing for the first time dedicated resources to coordinate Cayman's disaster management. As a former head of department himself, Mr. Ebanks advocated for accountability and internal empowerment of civil service leaders, including the ability to hire and fire. He was a staunch advocate for HR reforms that gave way to our current Public Service Management Act, a law that has long stood as a transformation standard bearer among overseas territories and beyond. In 2010, to support fledgling bodies born out of Cayman's 2009 constitutional reforms, he established the Commission's Secretariat, which provide the operational arm to the institutions supporting democracy, namely the Human Rights Commission, Standards in Public Life, Anti-Corruption Commission, Judicial and Legal Services Commission, Constitutional Commission, and Civil Service Appeals Commission. His career over the years has been marked by dedicated public service and significant contributions to the governance and development of the Cayman Islands. It was therefore not surprising when his distinguished service was recognized in 1994 with an award from the late Queen Elizabeth II to him as a member of the Order of the British Empire during her visit to the Cayman Islands. Though he was cloaked in awards and accolades, in his daily life, Mr. Ebanks epitomized humility and frugality, always demonstrating a keen regard for the people we serve, whose contributions feed the public purse. At his funeral, our premier, the Honorable Juliana O'Connor Conley, shared a most fitting excerpt of the poem If by Rudyard Kipling, which with your indulgence I will expound. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you have gave your life to broken and stood up and build them up with worn out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss and lose and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son. In his lifetime, Mr. Donovan Ebanks gave of his talents, led by example, and served as a shepherd to successive generations of public servants who would follow. Even when sickness proved a dogged foe, Mr. Ebanks found the strength and time to inquire about the well-being of others, to lend words of encouragement, and when he thought so necessary, to offer a loving rebuke. So many who worked with him loved and admired him, not for flowery words, but for what he stood for as a leader. His unwavering commitment to stand by his ideals, even when they were not in vogue, his compassion during time of struggle, and his pragmatic approach to things large and small. Personally, I credit his leadership, empathy, and stewardship for my continued path within the public service, and I know so many anecdotes that the same is true for many other civil servants. Our current Deputy Governor, the Honorable Franz Manderson, has on many occasions acknowledged the mentorship that Mr. Ebanks provided as being so impactful on his own career. Our current Director of Prisons, Mr. Daniel Greaves, is forever grateful for how Mr. Ebanks brought prominence and self-worth to the prison service during a period when it was desperately needed. Mr. Ebanks leaves behind two amazing children who are with us here today. Maggie and Josh Ebanks continue to do their father proud. It is clear that the very best of Mr. Ebanks is imprinted on these two fine young persons who demonstrate his trademark wit, humility, and strength of character. To them I say, thank you for sharing your dad. We, the members of the civil service, and indeed the wider public service with whom he worked so closely, are forever grateful for the life, career, and example of our first Deputy Governor, Mr. Donovan Ebanks.
Most fitting, most fitting. Does any other member wish to speak? The Honorable Acting Premier.
Morning, Mr. Speaker. The Premier has asked me to read this poem in her absence. It's by Alfred Lord Tennyson. Sunset and evening star, and one clear call for me, and may there be no moaning of the bar when I put out to sea, but such a tide as moving seems asleep, too full for sound and foam, when that which drew from out of the boundless deep turns again home. Twilight and evening bell, and after that the dark, and may there be no sadness of farewell when I embark. For though from out of bourne of time and place, the flood may bear me far, I hope to see my pilot face to face when I've crossed the bar. From the Premier. On a personal note, Mr. Speaker, I never had the pleasure of working with Mr. Donnie professionally, but I knew him in the community. He and my father are both the class of '69, and anybody who is aware of the '69ers, they're a pretty tight group. Mr. Donnie lived across the street from my aunt-in-law, and every time I saw him, he always gave me lessons in terms of professionalism, how to carry yourself, how to take in feedback from other persons, how to be diplomatic, and how to be an upstanding citizen. So for those life lessons, I thank him, and I can see that he's passed those on to his children. May he rest in peace.
The member for West Bay Central. Honorable Leader of the Opposition, sorry. I repeat, it's much easier if you stand in your place, then I can see you. I don't see very well.
Fair enough. Neither do I, sir. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good morning to everyone. I do believe it is truly appropriate that we are taking this time today to remember and honor Donovan Ebanks' life and celebrate the rich legacy that he has left behind. And the acting Deputy Governor so ably demonstrated that in her discourse on and remembrance of him. Donnie was a man of exceptional dedication and service who made a significant and positive impact on the civil service and on our community. Throughout his decades-long career, he had an unwavering commitment to public service, to his fellow civil servants, and to the Cayman Islands that he loved so dearly. To Donnie's family, friends, and all who knew him, on behalf of the official opposition, I offer our deepest and most sincere condolences to you all. I hope today that you can find comfort in the memories of his remarkable life and the knowledge that his legacy will continue to inspire. Rest in peace, Donnie. Your service and dedication will never be forgotten, and your spirit will forever remain a part of the Cayman Islands and in all of our hearts. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member from West Bay Central.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. Most people will not remember a basketball team called the Marlins, of which Charlie Farrington and Donnie, they were stalwarts on that team in basketball back in the day. So from the sports side of the society, I'd also like to remember Donnie as a hard-playing basketball player. But I'd also like to say, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to remember Mr. Riley Ebanks, who died on the 18th at 103 years old. On behalf of my colleagues, I'd like to offer his family condolences and wish him well on the next journey into heaven. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Minister for Planning.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the people of North Side, I offer our deepest condolences to the family of the late Deputy Governor, Mr. Donovan Ebanks. We all share in the sadness. We are mourning not just a great leader, but also a respected member of our community. So, Speaker, the last 2 months have been very hard for us, the people of North Side. Our hearts are heavy as we think about the loss of 4 important members of our North Side community. These individuals are Ms. Darlene Dixon, Mr. David Whitaker, better known to us as Mr. Jimmy, Mr. Rodney Rivers, and Mr. Donovan Ebanks. May their souls rest in peace.
Does any other member wish to speak? The Minister for Sports.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I too wish to extend my condolences and would like to share a few words about the late Donovan Ebanks. I used to call him Mr. Donnie, former Deputy Governor of the Cayman Islands. Much has already been said, and Mr. Speaker, it was my honor and privilege to have known him. I first met him in Public Works in 1984 while I worked there for a short period. Based on his stature and the deep voice that he possessed, I could see then that he was someone that was respected, and despite his strong approach, I found him to be someone that could always go to and speak freely with. He always gave good advice and guidance to me, and I personally encouraged me with furthering my education, to which I am most grateful, even though it wasn't in the field that he was encouraging me to go in. He was, in all instances, an outstanding man and a remarkable civil servant who paved the way and set an example for many to follow. He made a significant difference in the lives of many, and I'm sure his memories will live on with us. He'll be missed by the entire civil service and the Cayman community. And again, on behalf of my entire Ministry for Youth, Sports and Heritage, our deepest condolences and prayers are with his entire family as they continue to mourn his passing. And Mr. Speaker, I'd also like to publicly express condolences on behalf of myself and the entire District of East Centre, a few families in the district, and also beyond, who are mourning the passing of their loved ones. And our district is in mourning for Ms. Evangeline Rankin, a past educator, Ms. Melrose Flashy, Ms. Graciela Solomon, Mr. Trevor Watler, Ms. Pamela Melly Dixon, and within the last week, Ms. Gilda Thompson and Ms. Gloria Tatum. May their souls rest in peace and light perpetual shine on them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. Does any other member wish to speak? The Minister for Tourism and Ports.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was going to wait till we got to the second part of the obituaries, but I see that we've naturally flowed into that, segued into it. With that being said, Mr. Speaker, I too want to pass on my condolences to the family of the late Donovan Ebanks. It's never easy to lose a leader, a father, a friend, a brother, son, particularly when they are so effective in life. But I am happy to say that Mr. Donovan was such a strong individual that he's left a strong imprint in his children. And the little that I got to interact with him, I still feel like I get a sentiment of that when I speak to his daughter or his son. And particularly with his son growing that strong voice, quite similar to his father, if I feel the need to remember and touch, I can just reach out to his son and I can feel those happy memories again. So my condolences to the family. Mr. Speaker, I'd also like to take this opportunity to highlight a few recent passings in my constituency. It hasn't been easy over the last couple of weeks for many family members and brothers and sisters. So I want to take this opportunity to give the necessary condolences and respect to those members, one of which was just recently mentioned by the Minister for Sports, Miss Gloria Tatum. I want to pass on my condolences to her children, Danny, Terry, Catherine, and Michelle, and her many grandchildren. Also, we've had, as recent as Friday of last week, a former civil servant and a strong member of the Georgetown community, Miss June Meredith McField. Her mother, Miss Mavis Morris, is a very special person to me, and I want to pass on my condolences to her, Joe's siblings, and her two children. And I think I would share the viewpoint that on behalf of the acting deputy governor, that she was a committed civil servant and gave her life to this country. Also, Mr. Speaker, we unfortunately lost another member of our community on Wednesday, the 17th of July, a young heart by the name of Malika Savannah General. And my condolences goes out to her mother, Melanie General, her grandmother, Miss Marietta General, and her many cousins, aunts, sister, and her beautiful child of such a young age. Also, Mr. Speaker, my condolences goes out to the Martin family as they recently lost their beloved sister and daughter, Miss Teresa Martin. Condolences go out to Mr. J.D. Martin, who is the father, siblings, 3 brothers, 2 sisters, and her children, 2 sons and 1 daughter. Mr. Speaker, lastly, I want to send condolences to the Manzanares family with the recent passing of Miss Darlene Manzanares. Respect goes and condolences go out to her mother, her 2 children, and her many siblings, one of which, whom, Mr. Speaker, was a member of Parliament, the Honorable Alfonso Wright. I pray that the Lord gives them the strength and the patience and understanding to get through this very difficult time with the loss of their loved ones.
Thank you, Minister, the Honorable Minister for Labor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Donny, as I affectionately knew him, I had the pleasure of meeting him in the 80s when he was at Public Works. When I was seeking to advance my career and dreams in becoming an architect, I don't know why I never continued on that route. But he really tried with me, and I was enrolled in a program in a college in Pennsylvania, and needed some encouragement and apprenticeship. and I went to meet with Mr. Donny, and he met with me and gave me some great advice, and even gave me a project to do as an apprentice at the time with Public Works. I was working somewhere else, but I would go there in the afternoons and visit with him, and he gave me a mock drawing to do of the Sports Facility Dock, the one you see out there at Sports Dock. Of course, he didn't take my rendition, but I appreciate the encouragement from Mr. Donny, and will be forever grateful. I want to publicly say my condolences. God bless the family, his daughter, his son, all the rest of the family. Thank you. Also, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to also state my public condolences to the family of Mr. Riley Ebanks, which I'm very close to, and in West Bay, and also all the other families in Bontown who have lost loved ones. Also, to the family of Mr. Bendel Hides, we had a memoriam on Saturday for him, and one of his sons works with government here as a deputy chief officer. He was, sorry, his brother, Tristan Hides, and he was a founder of the National Cultural Foundation and National Gallery. And I want to, again, record my public condolences. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Attorney General.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I too rise to join in tribute to the late Mr. Donovan Ebanks, Donnie as we affectionately know him, or knew him. Mr. Speaker, I had the pleasure of working with Donnie. We worked alongside each other in the civil service and spent time here in Parliament and in Cabinet. I think it is common knowledge, Mr. Speaker, that he has left an indelible footprint and fingerprint, for that matter, on our road networks, on our civil service, Mr. Speaker, also on matters of hurricane and disaster preparedness and management in general, and I dare say matters of Little League, Mr. Speaker. He was very passionate in his job. He was a visionary, Mr. Speaker, and he was always in a mindset to bring about well-needed reforms in the public service. He was, Mr. Speaker, a very deep thinker, very contemplative, and very deliberate in carrying out his duties. But yet, Mr. Speaker, he was an uncomplicated person. He was a colleague, Mr. Speaker, for whom I had a lot of time, a lot of admiration. He was understandably the proud father of two beautiful, very smart, and dignified children, Josh and Maggie. Mr. Speaker, I am confident that his legacy will live on through Josh and Maggie. He, Mr. Speaker, went way too soon, but may his soul rest in peace.
Thank you, Honorable Attorney General. Does any other member wish to speak? Parliamentary Secretary for, I've forgotten, the member from Savannah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I too rise to take this opportunity to offer sincere condolences to the family of the late Donovan Ebanks, Cayman's first Deputy Governor. Donnie, as he was affectionately known, was very loved and respected. And I'm proud to say he was a Northside cousin of mine. Although from Northside, he lived most of his life in Savannah. He loved his community and was always ready and available to give what assistance he could. Whether his involvement was to provide help on cleanup days, Donnie was there. and he would frequently stop by the community office to tell us what he witnessed on the road. He was deeply concerned for those who drove too fast and often stopped them to give a word of advice to slow down. Donnie was very passionate and he cared for all. He and Annie raised two very loving and respected children, Maggie and Josh, who are here with us today. And they're deeply loved, and they know that they're almost like my own children. I'm also happy to say that their helper of 39 years, Mrs. Seal, has also joined them. She's been a dedicated and loving helper for so many years to Donnie. He left a deep legacy from Maggie and Josh, and they deeply loved him. He was a dad many wish they had. Our community of Savannah deeply miss him, and rest in peace, eternal peace, Donnie. I also take this opportunity to send out heartfelt condolences to all others who have recently lost loved ones in the community of Savannah. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The member for Georgetown South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I too rise today to extend my heartfelt condolences and that of my family and indeed my constituents of Georgetown South, to Maggie and Josh and their entire families on the passing of their dear father, Mr. Donnie. Just be comforted by all the fond memories, all the beautiful memories that you have of your dad. May his soul rest in peace. I've also been asked by my colleague, the member for Georgetown West, who had to step out for a minute. He's asked me to also convey to Maggie and Josh his sincere condolences and that of his family and also his constituents of Georgetown West. I'd also like to extend to the families of Darlene Manzuranis, Joan Matfield, and Melanie Matfield on the passing of their dear family members. In the case of Malika General, her mom is my special friend, Melanie General. And that really took a toll on me last week, Tuesday, when I was called to the hospital when her daughter passed. So I want to just let Mel know, and her mom, just how sad it is for all of us, particularly all of her friends at her workplace, Alexandria Bancorp, that we're all thinking of her, and we want to just say we love you and we will be here for you through this most difficult time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Does any other member wish to speak? Second time?
I believe we naturally segued into 9.2 on the agenda.
Oh, I see.
And I never...
Two bites at the cherry.
I only addressed 9.1.
Okay, just this once.
Just this once. Technically correct. In terms of other messages of condolences in West Bay South, I want to join the Minister for Labor in terms of condolences for Bendel Heights. Bendel Heights and my father go back from school age. And when we were all living in New York and we were living in Brooklyn and Bendel was living in Manhattan, to be a young person and see him in his element in Manhattan at the art scene, I used to think as a little kid, I hope Cayman realized what an art treasure and icon they have to see him in his element. His mind was extraordinarily creative. There are at least 2 paintings of his that are still in my mother's house in the States. Just an extraordinary human being. And it was surreal to join the civil service and be co-DCOs with his brother Tristan Hyde. I almost had to pinch myself knowing how close my father was to Bendel, to now have gotten to know Tristan. So I believe, as the Minister for Labor has rightly said, he's had several remarkable send-offs that I think mark his contributions to our country, but I hope that he is forever memorialized and not forgotten for his contributions to the creative foundation of this country. There was the unfortunate passing of Deandra Bodden's mother, who I think has served. Deandra serves as an assistant to a few members of this House. Her mother, Ms. Colleen Andrea Ebanks, we sadly lost her. I think I saw the leader of the opposition at the service. We've had elderly persons, and all elderly persons who've passed since we met since February, send out condolences. Most recently, there's been Kenneth Calvin Smith. We have, on a darker note, those who have had tragic losses of their own volition, in terms of Ms. Courtney Burke and also Ms. Shelby Daniela Thompson. That was probably, Mr. Speaker, the most difficult day I ever personally experienced as an MP, to visit the home of a grieving family on the day of the occurrence, where the child has proceeded in death before the parents. There was no words that myself and the member for West Bay Central could say. All we could do was be there in comfort and undertake as much as we can to focus on the phenomenon of teen suicide in this country. It's not easy, but we have to do more, because clearly there is an issue that our young people are grappling with, that they are not, for whatever reason, reaching out for additional help before they take that drastic step. On a probably more pleasant note, even though death is never easy, the family of Captain Harrison Bothwell, most of the family is in West Bay South, but he's also my wife's father. It was an extraordinary life that he lived. I said he had 2 services. I spoke at both. I said at one of them that we do pay due homage in this country to all of our seafarers and vets. But I do think we need to think about, for the life of Cal, all of those who've contributed to the air and aviation. He was certainly a pioneer. I think I remember from the obituary from memory, he has flown every model of aircraft that Cal has ever had. He trained numerous pilots. He had some of the hairiest landings and kept his cool. From all reports from the air traffic controllers, he was like ice, calm under pressure. We really do pay homage to an extraordinary life on behalf of my family. And I do think it's time to start to memorialize some of the pilots who've contributed to the air. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Acting Premier. The member for Cayman Brac West and Little Cayman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to offer my condolences to the first Deputy Governor of this country. I see Maggie and Josh looking down. It must be evoking many thoughts as they look at where their father used to do business with quite a few of us in this house. As has been said in the tributes, he was a wonderful man, a wonderful father, wonderful, wonderful husband. He was appreciated. He was respected by everyone in the country that met him and knew him, and abroad. And he will be missed by all. I also wanted to, for my constitutional responsibility of Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, to offer condolences because of your mother being from there and being able to spend a little time with her since Donnie, as we knew him, is passing, and to make sure that you know that our thoughts and prayers are with you, your family, and Annie. May his soul rest in peace.
Is any other? The Minister for Sustainability.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise just to give a short condolence. I think a lot of the members have already spoken and offered condolences to the family, to the late Mr. Donnie Ebanks. And I think Acting Deputy Governor summed up exactly what I was thinking in my mind as it relates to the life of public service. And so again, I want to echo the words that she just spoke as it relates to Maggie and Josh. Thank you for sharing your dad. We all know what sacrifices it takes to be a member and an ex officio member. So I just want to lay those condolences on behalf of the people of West Bay Central. And I noticed that a lot of poems are laid in Parliament. I ran across this poem just now, and it's pressed me to stand up and just speak for a moment. Acting Premier just spoke about the recent suicide in his constituency. And just a few short weeks before that, we also had one in West Bay Central. All of us here know that the staff of Parliament, they're like family. They are family. And I wanted to just say something this morning to offer condolences to our Raquel and to her husband Tim and to Camilla on the loss of Tyler, who served in our youth parliament as clerk. And this is the poem that just popped up, which is what forced me to say these words this morning. Her name sings my soul. The mention of my child's name may bring tears to my eyes, but it never fails to bring music to my ears. If you are really my friend, let me hear the beautiful music of her name. It soothes my broken heart and sings to my soul. May Tyler rest in peace, and may Shelby rest in peace. And I pray that we will see these suicides come to an end, not just in the Cayman Islands, but around the world. Thank you.
Does any other member wish to speak? We'll soon run out of members. Member for Newlands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to add my condolences to the family of Mr. Donnie, to Maggie and Josh, who are two wonderful young Caymanians making a real difference in this country, just as their father did, Mr. Speaker, in his 3+ decades of service, of public service to this country. Mr. Speaker, I extend condolences personally, and I extend condolences on behalf of my constituents, of my constituency of Newlands. Mr. Speaker, undoubtedly, we as a country have been the beneficiary of exemplary service. A man that I think many of us know didn't tolerate nonsense when it came to not seeking excellence, and he was so passionate about delivering good for his country, for our country. And I think undoubtedly we are a better country for it, and we are a grateful nation for his service provided. Mr. Speaker, I would also like to associate myself with the condolences, the offer of condolences made to the family members of all others mentioned just in the last hour or so. Mr. Speaker, the loss of any Caymanian is difficult, and I think we all feel it. We appreciate the family members, and we certainly remember those that have gone before us. Mr. Speaker, in particular, I want to thank the Deputy Premier and the member from West Bay South for particularly mentioning the tragic loss of some of our young people, our young Caymanians. Mr. Speaker, there's nothing harder for families than dealing with the loss of a young person with so much before them, so much potential, so much love to give, so much to contribute to their country. And I too wish that we can find a way to stop these from happening. If only we could do it as quickly as possible. Mr. Speaker, with that, I thank you for the opportunity to make this contribution.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The member for Bordentown West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I almost wasn't going to get up and say anything. Last Sunday, I walked my sister down the aisle for a wedding in the absence of my own father, which next month will make 10 years since his passing. And as I sat here and I listened to all the members of this house, and I remember Mr. Donny, and it's funny, Mr. Donny and my Uncle George was actually quite close, and there was a story that my uncle shared with me. Don't worry, Uncle G, if you're listening, I'm not going to tell a story. But it's a really funny story between him and Donny. And I listened to the Deputy Premier speak about Captain Harrison, who I had the pleasure of working with at Island here also, after he left Cayman Airways. And I can say, for Captain Harrison, probably one of the most decent persons I've ever met in my entire life. The man is just decent. But, you know, Mr. Speaker, as I'm sitting here listening to all the members, you know, remember people who have passed. It just goes to show us, all of us inside here, how short life is. And it's very easy to give people roses after they have passed. But I would say to everyone that's listening, life is so short. You know, for those of us who wake up in our beds this morning, we have a lot to be thankful for. Or there are people who are waking up in hospital beds, waking up in retirement homes, and don't have people around them. And I would say to everyone, while it's okay for us to remember those who have passed and the service they have given, take the time out when you go home or pick up the phone and hug your loved ones that you have today. Let them know how you feel before they pass. Because they say one of the most destructive elements in the universe is regret. And regret isn't driven by things that we did, but most of the time it's driven by things that we did not do. And that's all I say to people. Pick up your phone, go home, just tell your loved one how you feel about them. Life is just too short. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Any other member wish to speak? If not, I want to thank all honourable members for your heartfelt contributions this morning. I believe they will have a real impression on those who, the loved ones of those who have gone on, in particular, Josh and Maggie. Before I conclude, there's another recent passing which no one mentioned, which Mr. Dawson Milanio, who's an outstanding building contractor in Cayman for many, many years. His daughter-in-law, Wendy, worked in the civil service. I'm not sure if she's still there. And just want to convey condolences to Randy, his son, and all the rest of the family, and let them know that those of us who are in this role as representatives do share in their loss and wish to convey our condolences. Lives of great men and women all remind us we can make our lives sublime, and departing leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. Footprints that perhaps another, sailing o'er life's solemn main, a forlorn and shipwrecked brother, seeing, shall take heart again. Let us then be up and doing with a heart for any fate, still achieving, still pursuing. Learn to labor and to wait. The Lord giveth, and the Lord taketh. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Amen. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chair. I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker. Sorry for my interruption. A statement was registered and approved by Parliament, but it wasn't called on by the Ministerial Border Control.
Honourable Minister, the copy of the statement that came to me had instructions that it was not to be dealt with today. And we passed that section, or that part of the agenda in any event. Madam Clerk.
Raising a matter of privileges.
None. Madam Clerk, before we move on to government business, I omitted to mention that the Honourable Premier is still convalescing, and therefore the reason for her absence here, and also that the Honourable Member for West Bay West, the Honourable McKeever Bush, has also tendered his apologies. Madam Clerk.
Government business, bills, second readings, Firearm Amendment Bill 2024, continuation of debate.
When we took the adjournment yesterday evening, I presumed that debate had been completed, but just in the event anyone has had thoughts overnight who didn't speak before, we didn't actually close the debate, and I hadn't yet called on the Honourable Attorney General to exercise his right of reply. So does any other member wish to speak? The Honourable Minister for Border Control and Labour.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to give contribution to the Firearms Amendment Bill 2024. I really wanted to stand here today to thank the Honorable Attorney General and his team for being so willing to listen, trying to understand the concerns of the stakeholders, and to address them so quickly. And so I want to thank Minister or the member for Northside, and we ensured that a meeting was called very quickly, the stakeholders to address their concerns as they're contacting a lot of members of caucus, and really admire the interaction of the AG and his team with the stakeholders. And I want to thank the Gun Club members itself and chairman and other for paying attention to what's going on in these Cayman Islands. Otherwise, we wouldn't have known to take these matters for further discussions, and these amendments would have not came about. So definitely so. The thoughts of firearms in itself, Mr. Speaker. Someone asked the question as how do they come here? And that only gives me rise to mention that if firearms can come into this country, that other things such as smuggling of people, drugs, and other items, contraband, can come into this country. And we really need to, in my humble opinion, to I am a supporter of drones, and I think we need to just make a decision to get whatever we can to protect our borders. And I to see that we have a gun amnesty going on, Mr. Speaker, and I really never paid much attention to all of the details, but I pray that the gun amnesty has some type of reward. I didn't hear that, but we need to ensure that we get all the guns off the street as possible. But I again want to thank the Honorable Attorney General on behalf of the government anyhow, for responding so quickly to the concerns of the stakeholders. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Does any other member wish to speak? Does any other member wish to speak? The Honourable Acting Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll make this brief. As yesterday, I had a nose for lunch. I can smell it again. I first of all want to thank the Attorney General for his comprehensive presentation on the bill, the reasons for it, and some of the comments and observations that were made while it was published. I thought it was solid. I thought it covered a lot of ground, and I'm grateful for it. I also want to thank the members of this House during breaks that you allowed, Mr. Speaker, to join and confer with the Attorney General. I thought it was a very useful meeting across the aisle. We went through items line by line. I would like to see us as a body do more of that, because I think it was a very productive, constructive meeting that provided ample clarification on a number of issues. As the Attorney General has said, At the last contemplation of this legislation, so much has changed. The types of firearms have changed. The technology has changed. The member for West Bay West asked the question, where are the guns coming from? Some of them are coming just from technology. So it's not even cross-border, which is deeply troubling. So the legislation has to evolve. It has to move on. In terms of West Bay South, the bulk of the feedback that I got from constituents seemed to indicate that they understood the overall purpose, that it was time for the legislation to evolve, but had specific comments and feedback. So I'm also grateful for the Attorney General to have met with key stakeholder groups to gather and collect their feedback and seek to address it, which I think will be borne out at the committee stage. I believe it was the member for Baden Town West who asked me, in the capacity as acting premier and acting Minister of Finance and Economic Development, to undertake with the Economic and Statistics Office whether they will begin to publish and collect stats on resolved crimes. Duly noted, and I will also take that back to the Premier. One point that I've asked the AG in his right of reply, if he could cover just briefly for one more moment, is in terms of the bill's portion of mandatory sentences and whether that comports with the Bill of Rights. I think that's one area that could do with just a touch more clarification for those concerned in the public. In terms of the member, I believe it was the member for Newlands, who discussed that this legislation's updating is a useful tool in crime fighting, but there needs to be an overarching strategy in terms of how we're dealing, particularly with youth offenders who are becoming violent. So at that point, I would like to highlight, I think, the renewed focus of the Child Safeguarding Board of the government, which is the senior leadership team of the civil service, each of whom participates or has an aspect of child safeguarding, because I believe the answers are to start as early as possible. And some of that work is ongoing in terms of also reviewing the MASH unit, revamping it. In terms of social development, we're looking at changes to the children's legislation and other policies to help with the actual grounding of the legislation to get to root causes and have prevention rather than cure. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I think I thank the opposition for their collaborative effort and their tacit support or even expressed support. And I look forward to the AG's right of reply and committee stage amendments to get this necessary evolution of this legislation passed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Acting Premier. Does any other member wish to speak? Does any other member wish to speak? Does any other member wish to speak? If not, I'm going to call on the Honorable Attorney General to exercise his right of reply.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Attorney General, before you get into the meat of the matter, as the clock crawls towards 1 p.m., would this be a convenient time to take the suspension?
Yeah, I wouldn't stand between honorable members and lunch.
We will suspend until 2:30.